Okay.
Hi, YouTube people. Here we are, ready to start. Pressing record.
You're listening to the Lead Stories podcast, where we believe everyone has influence.
And those who are intentional with their influence are leaders. We are so glad you're here with us. I'm Pastor Steph.
And I'm Joe Saxton.
Welcome to season 6.
Woo! 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 This is season 6.
Can you
friends.
believe it? I can't believe it.
I don't know.
It
I
feels
can
surreal.
because of Facebook memories. And it reminds me of how long
It
we've been
constantly
doing it.
reminds us how long we've been doing things. I just feel like it's fresh, it's new, we're stepping into it. I'm just excited. I'm excited for season 6.
I feel ready. I am ready.
I feel more ready for this year for this season than any
Yeah.
other season so far.
Okay.
So, surprise, surprise, if anyone wondered if we looked ready in previous seasons. But we might have some new people.
We might. Actually, welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Lead Stories podcast if you are new to us.
We are people who see ourselves as trying to equip leaders.
Yeah.
And give them tools and resources.
Yeah, committed to empowering you whether you are leading in the workplace, whether you're leading in churches, entrepreneurs, non-profit areas, wherever you find yourself going first, shall we say.
Yeah, and it's really important to us that people don't assume that leadership is primarily about position or title. I mean, it is. That's part of it, but that is not...
But part of it,
That's just a part. There's a lot of people who are not being intentional with their influence who have titles.
And there are lots of people who don't have titles who are being very intentional with their influence.
Yeah, yes. So probably the most important thing anybody new can remember is that our definition of leadership is people who are intentional with their influence. And that is broad. I mean, intentionally broad.
Yeah.
But I found that folks just have this assumption that they're not leading something unless they have a title.
Yeah.
And then when they do have titles, they haven't been practicing their leadership or living into it because they genuinely thought that it was the title that makes them a leader. And we're just not here for that.
So our desire throughout the time of the podcast is that there are always some tools to walk away with, some training. We have interviews with people on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah, not a ton, but one of our favorite things to do is to introduce people to different leaders. We call them lead voices.
Yeah.
People who are leaders in their, what have you been saying? Sphere, but you kept saying that thing last year. Slaying in your lane.
Oh yes, who are slaying in their lane. Yay.
It doesn't sound the same when I say it. Anyway, the point is that we love the fact that people who listen to this podcast can hear from leaders who are doing tons of different types of leadership, people who are very different than each other.
Yeah.
And I feel like whenever we do those interviews, the opportunity is there for your mind and heart to grow. And I know mine has from listening to people. So anyway, we're pumped. So we know right now what our series we're jumping into.
Yes.
We're going into the deep end of
the tools of the trade.
The tools of the trade.
Well, I like that musical thing.
The tools of the trade. We'll have to work
that
on
was
it.
different.
Yeah, we'll have to work on it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the series is called The Tools of the Trade. Do you want to explain a little bit about it?
Yeah, again, it revolves around leadership as always, and we've been thinking about it for months about some of the tools that we have used that have helped the how of leadership.
Yeah.
That have helped us either expand our internal capacity as leaders or have developed us externally as leaders.
Yeah.
And we just recognize there are lots of different things we've used and we've not really shared them.
Yeah.
And not everybody has access to all the tools all the time, so we thought we would share a number of the ones which have had and continue to have a significant impact on our life.
Yeah, it feels to us that giving you these tools and explaining them clearly is taking it up a couple notches in the intentionality of the influence that we have, and just giving people some of these resources that, I mean, certainly have not been what made or make or break leadership, but are significant in growing, and significant in taking your leadership to the next space and to grow in your self-awareness, etc.
Absolutely.
Those kinds of things.
And we recognize that I mean, obviously not all these tools are ours.
Yeah.
But it's great to share the things that we're learning and what we're discovering and what we're finding, and to just identify where we're at as leaders, but to keep us moving forward. And maybe you can use them with your teams and the people that you're leading, and they have access to, again, more resources to help them go further.
Absolutely. So here's one thing that's happening right now that has never happened, and that is we have a camera on right now, a visual camera. Wait, there's no other type of camera.
I was going to say, as opposed to
audio. So podcast or audio or video. So anyway, the point is, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch what we're saying right now.
Newsflash, we have a YouTube channel.
Newsflash. Just go to YouTube and search Lead Stories and you'll find it. But the reason we're doing that is very intentional. It's not because we did our hair well this morning, because I did not think
I
about
didn't
that.
actually do mine.
That was not something
at
I
all.
considered.
Yeah.
But now that we're here,
the
point is, if you're watching now, if you have now switched over to the video, you will see that behind us is one of our favorite things. These are a few of our favorite things: whiteboards.
Whiteboards. Big ones.
Or any sort of dry erase situation.
Yeah.
I'm happy with any dry erase situation. I have some dry erase paint that actually can be painted over any color. And then you may write on whatever surface you have painted.
See, it's a lovely thing.
Did I paint a wall and some tables and whatever else I could find? Yes, I did.
Well, because then it's accessible whenever you need to think.
Right.
Out loud.
So behind us is a whiteboard, if you can see that. And if you can't, you can actually just keep listening to the audio. We will explain it. But some of you are visual learners, and because of the tools being so visual, we are going to use the whiteboard for people who want to. So hello. But absolutely keep listening. If you can't visually watch, we will explain it.
Please don't watch and drive.
Please don't watch and drive.
Yeah.
Please don't watch and jog quickly.
Yeah.
If you're taking a walk, maybe, but you could step in something.
Yes, they'll sit down, have a little rest.
Right, but we're happy for you just to listen to the audio too. We're just trying to give you the option. Anyway, so today we're going to share. I'm not one that has like favorites about things. I'm just like, that's not my personality. Like, oh, my favorite this. Like, I don't know what my favorite movie is, for instance, or favorite song. It's just not.
No, because it changes.
But so this is not like our favorite tool. But it's a significant tool that we feel like is one of the ones that we've used most readily. And if you follow either of us on social media, which you should, why not? We'd love to have you. Then you'll see we actually post about this tool sometimes, but we've really never taken the time to explain it.
No, and a number of people have asked us to get on and do that. So here we are. We are actually doing what you asked.
So do you want to introduce what the tool is? And it's actually one that's familiar to people, particularly in the business world, and then with a significant twist.
Yes. So the tool we're looking at today is known as the SWOT Analysis. The SWOT Analysis, which is often used as a diagnostic tool within businesses to see how things are going. But the twist is that over the years, obviously different groups of people use it for their own means and ends, and because it's such a great tool.
Yeah.
When I was working at 3DM a number of years ago, the leader of 3DM at the time and the team worked with how to use it in a way that would maybe make it a bit, again, more readily accessible to the churches that we were working with and the non-profits we were working with at the time.
And your own life, too.
And in our own lives.
Your team, your life, your non-profit, similar to the way that it's primarily used in business and for other leadership.
So it's a bit of a SWOT mashup now.
And SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Just in case anyone's like, why do you
Which are helpful things to know when you are assessing how your leadership is going, how you're doing, how your church or company is doing as well. So basically what we want to share today is how we use it in our own lives as a diagnostic tool for our leadership and the process that we go through when we're using it.
Yeah. I really love using things that have been helpful in the business world because it's not every tool is as applicable to ministry or life or to our own leadership, but some of you are in business, so that's fine. Like, this is a helpful tool if you haven't used it. I just like it because if people are going to use it to get a profit, which I don't have a problem with, then let's use it for kingdom stuff.
Absolutely. I agree. I think the other thing I love about it is that the language is so neutral.
Yeah.
And I think we need to find tools that help us look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of our leadership, and the ugly of our lives, and our failures in a way which doesn't feel like we're pointing the finger. And I think having a common language with your team and having a common language with your groups or whatever is a really helpful way to do that. And I think this does that very well.
Great. Well, I'm going to describe the visual for people.
Yes.
So if you were to pull out a piece of paper, which you don't have to do, but just imagine a piece of paper in your brain, you would just draw a very simple quadrant. So, two, a y-axis and an x-axis right in the middle, and giving you 4 equal sized boxes, right?
Yeah.
So the strength, weakness, opportunity, threat are the axes. And I am going to admit right now, I don't know which one's Y or X, so I'm going to say horizontal and vertical.
I was going to say top to bottom and across, so well done. I was not even, when you had the Y and X there, I was like, girlfriend, this is good.
Whew. Did I even spell all these words right? Nobody tell.
Nobody needs to know.
I think I didn't, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so from top to bottom,
yes.
At the top, we have opportunities.
Yep, so you can write either the letter O or opportunities going across.
Yep, and then on the very, very bottom of that whole of the vertical line, you can write threats.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. That's about like what threats needed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the vertical axis. The horizontal axis, from the left side, when you're looking at the sheet, to the right side, the left side you write weaknesses, or W for weaknesses, and on the right side you write strengths, or S for strengths. So the vertical and horizontal axis are important for the diagnostic because it helps you understand what should go in each of the boxes.
Yeah.
And we have some words that have been used from the 3DM days to describe what happens when you have the combination of these four things, right? A different combination of these four things.
So I'm going to start in this corner.
Okay.
In this bottom corner.
Yeah.
I don't know my left from right, listeners, so I'm just going to go one at a time. I do, but it's often guesswork. I don't want to talk about my driving right now. Anyway, so when you have a strength and a threat, you're in a strength. I mean, it does what it says on the label. When you're strong, it's a good position, a healthy position. But when we talk about threats, something external which is threatening your position, what the word we put in that box is a battle. You have a battle on your hands in some way. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at. More detail, or should I just go around?
Why don't you just go around?
Okay.
I'll give an example
Of each one?
Yeah.
Excellent. So moving onwards, if you have a threat, you've got external opposition, but you're also recognizing that you're in a state of weakness, you're vulnerable in some way, something's not going well, often internal, then that's where you see failures come.
Yeah.
You know, when something, it's just not working.
Yeah.
It's just not working.
And I want to say something about failure. That's a really scary word. We totally get that. It's also really helpful to name failures because oftentimes when you name them, the power is taken away from them.
The power of shame, the power of guilt, and the power of carrying on when you really need to stop.
Yes. So if you're someone who is scared of that word, we're going to encourage you to cozy up to it because it could actually set you free.
Yeah.
If you're someone who tends to label things failures that are not yet a failure, let's talk about that too.
Okay, so let's keep moving on. The next one, I realised I kind of went clockwise, but I didn't start at the happiest one. But there's a reason for that. I like to end with a upward note.
Yeah.
So if you have a weakness and you have opportunities, that means there are doors opening to you. There are great things potentially, but the weakness often on the inside, either in the system of your company or the system of your life, is getting in the way. Then you find frustration because you're trying to get somewhere, and then something's always pulling you back. That's what that quadrant stands for. And finally, but by no means least, when because you'll find yourself right at the top again and you have opportunities, but you'll find yourself that the other side of that quadrant is your strengths. If you've got great opportunities ahead of you and the strength to go and get there, you have breakthroughs. You have a breakthrough. And I love the word breakthrough, and I think the healthy warning is that it has the word break in it. Yes. Because sometimes having come into breakthrough, something very difficult has just happened. Yeah. You've got some wounds a little bit though because you have broken through into some mistakes. Breakthrough is not synonymous with comfort zone. No. Easy ride. No. Or convenient. No. Breakthrough. Different word. Mm-hmm. Yay. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm gonna give an example. And also I just want to let people know we will put a copy of this in the show notes. Yeah. Yeah, you got this. So you can grab it whether you're watching the video. This might be one tool more than any of the others where seeing this visually will help. Absolutely. And so do check in with the YouTube video, do check in with all the resources you can. Yep. Okay, so let me give an example. So let's imagine that you are someone who took the wonderful opportunity to be coached by Gwen Adams in fundraising. Yay! Because that was an opportunity for people last year. Mm-hmm. Gwen's amazing. She's really good at coaching people in fundraising. So you have just had the opportunity to be coached in fundraising. So let's imagine some people took that opportunity and some people didn't. All right. Yeah. So if you have all the tools that you need because you learned from Gwen how to raise money, but you don't have a wide enough network of people yet to ask for that money, that could, for that funding for whatever you're trying to raise money for, that's a spot that's a lot like a battle. Yeah. So you've got the internal strength, you've got the ability to do that, but let's say your company has kind of weak ties and doesn't have the people that you're going to make the hard asks to. There's some strengths and weaknesses going on there, but if that's not you and you don't have the people to ask, then that's going to feel like a battle because that's external. You've got the inner strength because you learned from Gwen. You've got the resources. You've got the resources, but you don't have the external folks to do the fundraising skills with yet. Okay, so that would be a battle. It's an external thing. If you were to not take the opportunity to get coached by Gwen, even though you know you need to raise money, you just didn't do it.
And then you also don't have any people to ask money. That's a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're not even weak ties.
Yeah, you don't have the people to ask for the investment, and you also don't have the inner resources yet to do that.
Yeah.
That is a weakness and a threat.
Because it's not going to work.
Right. So it's good to say that, because that would cause you to say, well, what do I need to do?
What do I need to do to get somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say you also decided, I'm not going to do the coaching with Gwen. At the end of the year is really busy. That's okay, no judgment. But all of a sudden you get into the new year and there are people saying, how can we help? We want to know how to do that.
Loads of opportunities.
Loads of people who want to invest, but you did not yet get the tools to know how to ask them for that specific ask.
You don't know what to say.
So you are going to feel frustrated by that, because there's a huge amount of opportunity, but there's a weakness in your part because you don't feel confident in making the ask yet.
Good stuff.
Okay, so then you took the time and the energy and the investment to learn from Gwen, and you step into the new year and there are people who are ready to invest. If that combination happens, you have an opportunity and a strength coming together, and that's going to create a breakthrough. And so if you're raising funds for something that you believe in, you're most likely going to get some of that funding, if not all of it, because that's the intersection of the opportunity and the strength. That's just an example.
Yeah. Love it.
That's my example. So let's talk a little bit about what this has looked like for you to use the tool in your own leadership then.
Yeah, it's been a helpful tool I come back to a few times a year. Mm-hmm. Again, because I think for me, I need to see it written down, what's going on.
Yeah.
I need to take some time to look and identify. And sometimes I do it on an overview of all my leadership, or I'll do it on one area of my life, like how's speaking going, or how, and when I say life, knowing all of it impacting as a leader, relationship with kids.
Yeah, that's kind of something that's important to note, because not everybody sees the integration of our life and leadership. I mean, we say our tagline is talking about leadership and life because they're the intersection. I mean, they're the same. You're not a leader in certain spaces, and you're not, you know what I'm saying?
And they impact each other.
Totally.
I can't divorce them from one another.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm doing an audit for a particular task at hand, like writing a book.
Yeah.
But other times, and more often, I use it when I'm doing an overview of where am I at? I need to see where things are at. I can't tell, or what am I missing, or what am I not pressing into? Well, I need to get a good overview, and the SWOT helps. Using SWOT in this way helps me have a good overview, and I ask questions. And now sometimes for me, I don't look at the strengths and the threats. I'll just say, what's the battle?
Right. So that's a good point. So once you have those 4 quadrants labeled as battle, failure, frustration, breakthrough, then you begin to name the things that are in each of those. Yeah.
And knowing that I'm writing them in pencil, not in ink, because after processing them, discussing them with the likes of you and Gina, which we'll get back to later, we might find that actually that's how I feel it is, but actually something else is going on.
Yeah. So for example, sometimes I've heard you say, oh, this area of my life is totally in a frustration. And then once we talk, we realize the reason this is not a breakthrough is not you. It's not your own weakness. Yeah. It's an external thing. Well, that means it's a battle. And so we would erase it and move it to that, because the way you respond to it's actually different. We'll talk about that in a minute too.
And I found that really helpful to have the space to diagnose, or at least attempt to take a stab at where things are at.
Yeah.
So what are the areas where that I see as battle, and then coming back and saying, okay, let's look again, strengths and threats, is that what's going on? And again, I can only see so much. I'm not going to see it all until I'm processing it with someone, because you need someone who's looking at your life and saying, is it though? Are you battling, or is it a failure, and is it time?
Right.
Is it time to let go?
Some people are internal processors, and I totally get that, but these are things that until you bring it into community, you're just not going to get the same thing from it. Yeah. So you can work on it on your own. In fact, external processors need to spend some time working on it on their own too. Yeah. But bringing it to community is where we see the growth.
I think it is that continuum, isn't it? Of the introvert part of the process and the extrovert part of the process. Mm-hmm. And again, one of the things I love about this is that it forces us to attend to both.
Yeah.
And some things are going to come more easily than others. And so, I like to take some time on it. Now, I am a gut thinker, so I often have to be like, is my gut thought my most honest thought?
Yeah.
On that one, as I look at each of the quadrants. And if I don't see some of the key areas, I have to ask myself, say, okay, you haven't put your family on there. Where's that right now?
Yeah.
You haven't put your health on there. Where's that right now? Finances. Because all of those things are going to be impacting my leadership.
Absolutely.
And they will, it's far more important that I'm aware of how they're impacting my leadership than that I'm not. Yeah. And I look for trends. I look for for patterns.
Yep.
So do I see a lot of battle do I see a lot of battles in my life? Do I see a lot of failure? Do I see a lot of frustrations? Do I see a lot of breakthroughs?
Yeah.
Am I confused about, is there one that I put in all of them?
Yeah, right.
Depending on how often you do it. I mean, we get together 2 or 3 times a year to look at this specifically.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at it in my own life, I'm asking myself, what was going on?
Yep.
If there's a lot of battle, if I see lots of areas which I'm like, oh, okay, work was a battle, finance was a battle, I'm like, okay, this explains why I'm really, really tired this week.
Yeah, right.
Because everything has been a struggle.
Yeah.
Or if there's been a lot of breakthroughs, what's God saying? Because like you said, it does, it's been a breaking,
Yep.
but it's a new place as well. What's God saying then about that?
Right.
What do I need to pay attention to? And when I'm going through this and I've got it all written down in front of me, I finally get a chance to look and say, okay, this is what your life is saying right now.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I'm like, God, what are you saying? God, what are you saying? Or what's the best strategy? Or what's the best book I've read? What's the greatest podcast I've listened to? What's the advice I got from that mentor? And actually, sometimes I need to look and say, what is your life saying?
Yep.
And this has just been one of those great ways to be able to assess that.
In addition to patterns that you see in any given day that you're writing the SWOT analysis or season, what about things that are in that same quadrant for a while,
yes,
multiple times? Because that is one of the benefits of using a consistent tool is that you can say, okay, I don't not only see a pattern in this one diagnostic moment, but I see over time. Can I give an example?
Yeah, go for it.
So an example of something that has been bouncing around between my battle and my frustration for years, because we've probably been doing this for 6 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
Regularly together. And it's you and me and Gina. Our friend
Gina. Hey, Gina. Hey, Gina.
And we talked last year about coaching and how we defined coaching as process-oriented relationships that are intentional and which you want to grow. And so it's kind of like a pure coaching group. Mm-hmm. Where we get together and we say we're going to be intentional to use a process, like a tool, intention to grow. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a process-oriented relationship. So we do that together because then we can also identify the patterns we see year to year.
Yeah, it's like you said that before, haven't you?
Yeah. So one of mine that was bouncing around was administrative support.
Yeah.
And the reason that was bouncing around between frustration and battle is because there was weaknesses in me, and some of that is I have feelings that I can just do things myself.
Yes. A little bit on the over-responsible side.
Yeah, over-responsible, and on a bad day it's called over-functioning.
Yeah, orcs.
Oopsies. And so I was it's a surrender thing. Mm-hmm. It's letting go of the control of some things administratively that actually helps me thrive in leadership.
Yeah.
And a breakthrough would be some of these things off my plate, because what was happening is instead of doing a few things really well, I'm doing a lot of things okay.
Yeah.
And that's why it was in the frustration. Then sometimes it was in battle, because it turns out a great admin should not be free.
Yeah,
it could be.
Yeah.
And there have been times where you or I have had people who have given some of their time.
And they made the choice. They offered that.
Yeah, and it's usually in an interchange of investment in them, but that's still not free, right?
Yeah.
There's an interchange, like I'm investing in you so that and then I will support you. They will support administratively. Okay, so sometimes it was a battle because there just weren't the resources.
Yeah.
There weren't the financial resources. There weren't the right people to be in that spot.
Yeah.
There were people who were willing to help, but they weren't administratively gifted. I mean, there were so many things.
Yeah.
You guys, years. Like this was bouncing around my SWOT since day one.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
actually.
you all helped me identify that was an issue. I remember exactly where we were sitting in South Carolina at a table when I was like, oh, and I wrote it down. Anyway. The point is that it eventually, and is right now, I would say, in breakthrough.
Yeah.
And what happened for that to happen is intentional, and what took a lot of prayer and praying that through and saying, God, if this is something you're saying that I need to work on and I need to grow in my strength of delegating and being willing to let go, if I get to that place of strength, then I need to pray for the opportunity. I need God to pray for the opportunity. So, very long story short, Heidi, who does the admin for Lead Stories and does some admin for me, I don't know how to explain it any other way except for I had the strength to ask. I was ready to do it, and she was the opportunity in that moment, and it was, I feel like God really brought that together.
Yeah.
But we had to both be listening, and we had to both respond to what God was doing in our life, which is the questions we're always asking. What is God saying, and how do we respond? And so then I did the SWOT analysis, and it was like a huge celebration because it had moved to breakthrough. Now, breakthrough is, like we said, it's breaking. It's hard. Are there some things that are really hard about continuously letting go of the control of some stuff? Yeah. That's part of the breaking. Like, it broke a spirit of control in me. And that's still painful and hard. And that's okay, because I'd rather have the breakthrough.
Yeah, that's good.
So there's just an example of something kind of bouncing around in that way.
I think as well, the bouncing around, although we might feel frustrated by it, for it to go from frustration to battle,
Yeah.
or actually to go from failure to frustration to battle, was actually signs of progress.
It definitely was.
To go to a place where you're fighting for it, and you think, actually, this is actually a big deal.
Yeah.
Before, I didn't even think it was a big deal. I just had to take it on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm realizing that this is something worth fighting for, and I think that was an important part of it. But I think what you're speaking to as well is the benefit of not doing this on your own.
Yeah.
Of not sticking on your own, because actually what it did was it exposed other things and said, actually the frustration is one thing, but it's actually exposing something else in terms of the desire to hold on.
Yeah.
That might want to go in a quadrant.
That's a character thing.
Yeah,
that wasn't just a skill problem.
Yeah, that wasn't just a skill problem. And I think that's what I love about this diagnostic and using it in this way, is that it exposes some of the habits and coping mechanisms and strategies that we use to protect the parts of ourselves we need to surrender.
Well, I'm just going to wait
Do you know
for a minute on that one.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah. No, I think that we, and I'm just saying generally speaking, leaders have a tendency to say they're being wise with something that's actually a defense mechanism to cope with a weakness.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm just
waiting.
I'm just doing this, I'm just doing that. We need to check those things. And diagnostic tools help us to check that stuff. And
I think having someone else to stand there with you and watch and observe your life over a period of time is a great way to do that. Because actually, when we do these SWOTs together, what we do is we share it with one another and say, this is what I'm seeing. And then the other two people have a chance to look at it, read it, and they've been listening to you the whole time, but they're also taking note of how you're communicating what's going on and being aware of the patterns that they're seeing in your life.
Yeah.
And so I found it most valuable to have that whole combination and that whole dynamic there. But there has to be trust in a relationship, and there has to be permission for someone to say, you have to be able to say, here's my SWOT, here's what I'm looking at, speak to that.
Yep. And maybe the most important distinction of the way we're using the SWOT analysis in our purposes then, because some of you are saying, well, I would use this for business, and that's great. Maybe the most important distinction is the invitation of the Holy Spirit and of God's leadership in this. And so can I talk about the movement? So if you're talking about your skills or your issues or your things, there can be, you can leave something like this with a to-do list.
Yes,
I need to not be so this, I need to not do that, fix this, fix that, should.
Yeah.
You could, and it is difficult not to do that.
Yeah.
But what we would encourage people to think about is, what's God's invitation in this thing?
Yeah.
What's God's invitation in order to move to breakthrough in any given area? And depending on where any said issue, thing, circumstance is in the quadrants, the way that you approach God's invitation would change. So we've got a suggestion of the ways that you might move towards breakthrough. So let's just start with failure. So if there's a failure,
it's a good one.
But what's beautiful about the God that we serve and the story, the big God story, as I always talk about it is a story that hinges on one of the most important things in the world, and that is resurrection. That is the idea that when something is dead, it did not work, it did not happen, it's gone, it needs to be laid to rest. I actually think sometimes naming the failure is the mini funeral service for whatever just happened.
I think it's embracing the cross.
It's embracing the cross. It's embracing the fact that this dream died. Frankly, sometimes this relationship.
Yeah. This job opportunity, this job done. I mean, that has been on our SWOTs.
It has.
We've had job losses, we've had relationship endings, we've had all kinds of things financial nightmares.
Absolutely.
Have all come in this quadrant over the past 4 or 5 years.
And so what's the spiritual invitation, I think, to death and resurrection? To let something die and to invite God's Spirit to resurrect. This is the biblical narrative. It is beauty from ashes. It is all things new. Yeah. It is something that goes under, coming back up. I mean, it's baptism. Yeah. This is what we're talking about.
It is. But it is death.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was working with 3DM and we would do this with churches as their diagnostic and stuff. We begin every learning community with a where's your church at, or how have we been going on the principles of discipleship and mission we're working on.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating watching leaders who were unable to admit that this was a failure.
Right.
And they would say, I don't like to use the word failure. I call it an opportunity.
Right.
Or I call it a learning thing. I'm like, name it.
Right.
And they were so afraid of publicly saying to other leaders in the presence of other leaders, this failed,
or to themselves,
to themselves. And it was interesting watching how hard it was to make plans because they hadn't embraced the cross.
Right.
And I say they, knowing that there are moments when I haven't embraced the cross. I'm not dead to myself. I'm dying and trying. I'm on my own life support machine.
Right.
Whether it's my leadership, whether it's my overwork, whether it's my eating habit, or whatever. And rather than saying this failed, I'm like, oh, it didn't. It's not. It's struggling. It's like no, it's dying, and we want a resurrection. So you've got to embrace the death, and that is vulnerable, and it's grief, and it's sometimes public, and it's often alone.
And if you don't, what I'm saying is, I think what we're trying to say is, if you don't, then you're walking around with the ghost of self-deception.
Yeah.
Like,
and often the shame and guilt haunting you too.
Yeah, get that ghost out of there. Like I mean, what is it, right? Like something that's dead, not acting like it's dead. It's haunting you.
Yeah.
Like it is. I mean, it's creepy. It's actually creepy.
Yeah.
It's haunting you. Like it needs to be in the ground because that's when new life. I mean, we know that the new life comes from that. And
God is restoring. Goes to the ground and dies.
Yes, God is restoring, renewing. You know.
And this isn't just about our feelings. This is about where you put your budgets. This and how you invest your priorities, the investments that you make relationally, professionally, intellectually. There are so many things that this has implications for. We're not just saying own the feelings.
Right.
We're saying that the challenge for us diagnostically on this is, are we willing to admit that it's died?
Yeah.
But in that, recognizing that the Lord is inviting you to a resurrection that only He can do.
Right. I mean, it's the first 3 steps of the 12-step program. It's admitting that you are powerless to the situation and you have to let it go, that there is a higher power, that God is in the midst of this, and surrendering to that.
And it's hard because for us as leaders, if we feel we've got to have answers for this, if we feel we've got to have answers to ourselves or to the people we're doing this tool with, it can feel like a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. Because sometimes it's like, I failed, I have to admit that the threats and the weaknesses overwhelm me, and I don't even know my way out.
Right.
But then, if you did, you probably wouldn't have failed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't say that as an accusation. I say that as a yes. Yeah. And it's okay to acknowledge and give voice and to name that.
Yeah.
Because then you won't always rely on your own resources to get you out of something that isn't working for you.
Yeah. And I would just say, too, if you're in a season where there wasn't a big failure, don't feel like when you're doing this in community, you have to make it a fake one.
No, you don't. No, please don't.
You're like, oh, I guess this kind of was a failure. You know, I mean, it's like, no. But there is the inability, like the tendency more than often than not is to not name it when it's there. So so then if you're in a battle, and you're experiencing external resistance, but you have internal strength, what would God's invitation be in that? And we know from our understanding of, once again, the biblical narrative, that God says a lot of things about how God fights for us. And it doesn't say, run and hide, I'm going to fight for you. It says, stand firm. It says, have your armor.
Yeah, and standing is a posture, isn't it? It's an intentional posture.
Yeah, absolutely. And be still and peaceful, because I will fight for you. And so I think the overall invitation is one of increasing our faith.
Yeah.
And maybe trust, faith and trust. I mean, I guess all these take trust. But like faith, increasing our faith in a God who doesn't always do things in our timing. We don't always understand it, but we know can and has the power to do such things. And that if God's not doing that, perhaps there's a bigger picture for what God's doing, and we need to attend to that. But all of that is about an increase of faith. So that's what I typically put in the battle quadrant, is how do we increase our faith to move into breakthrough? And
I think what I find fascinating about that, and when I think of the battles in times gone by, is that the Bible talks about faith coming by hearing, and hearing the word of God. And so it's like, what's God's word to you? What's God's word that gives you faith?
Yeah.
You know, what's His word what's the word you stand on? You know, because otherwise we may fight back in our own ways.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've got my battle strategy. I'll slash their tires.
Yeah.
That's not it. By the way,
no,
that's not.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. I think that might be a felony.
Yeah,
actually.
That's definitely a felony.
That's definitely.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, I remember being in a situation once where I was like coming before the Lord in a battle and being like, and I remember just saying, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And I just was listening, and I heard God say, because I love you. And I'm going, I did not audibly, I didn't audibly hear it. And I'm going, okay. But now looking back, there were things that God was doing in the midst of that, and stretching and shaping me and getting me to where I needed to go. And I had not seen it as love at the time. But I listened, and I increased the faith
Yeah.
in that was the word. I needed to hear it for a word. So what is that word? What's that invitation to faith that God has for you?
Particularly when we know that often God's battle strategies, when you look at them through the Bible, they're really unconventional.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're like, really, that's how we're going to
Thin
win?
out the army.
You mean less people
Yeah.
and less weaponry and less support in a big army? Right, okay. Or,
well, and at the end of the day, self-sacrifice. I mean, Jesus turning upside down what it looks like to win a war.
Yeah, it's like, that's how, I thought this was a strength.
Yeah. No, that's
It's
huge.
just his, not yours, that's all.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then if you're in a frustration, then you're dealing with your own internal weaknesses.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity, so that's really frustrating. It's frustrating to know that if you just had the strength, you would be able to seize the day. And that's a very difficult place to be.
It's very easy to be hard on yourself, to come down real hard on yourself. And this is one of those where I think we've both done this for each other and with Gina from time to time, where we felt frustrated and we've been so hard on ourselves that the other person's had to say, actually, I see why you put it there, but it's actually a battle.
Yeah.
Because you took responsibility for things that you couldn't do. Do you know what I mean? There is that sense of how we handle our weakness.
Right.
I've got to say, when I've done this with a number of women leaders, the frustration one has been a really high one.
Yeah.
Has often been, that's been the box which was written all over, all down the sides.
Yeah, it's full. The assumption is that it's me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, but let's be careful to pay attention to whether or not these are external things.
And what's that a reflection of?
But if you get to a spot where you say, no, this is a frustration, this is a weakness, there's something I can probably do about this, like what is this? The invitation from God has to start with grace.
Yeah.
And receiving that grace.
Yeah.
Because it's from the receiving of grace that we are able to walk freely and lightly with what God's put before us.
Yeah.
Jesus clearly discipled people through challenge and encouragement to do hard things, really difficult things. So it's not, I'm going to have grace, and grace means I peace out and rest and don't do anything.
No.
It means receiving the fact that God loves you enough to give you the next thing to push you.
And it's that remembrance. And I think one of the things I found very helpful with the SWOT analysis and the different titles for each quadrant is that thing about weaknesses and his power being made perfect in our weakness, his power coming into its own. And he says, my grace is sufficient for you.
Right.
And that his grace isn't just more than is not a good feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a kind of, I'm here.
Yeah.
Which frankly is wonderful in itself. But he's actively taking that loving initiative in our lives and propelling us forward.
Absolutely.
As we walk with him and as we respond to him, and that engages with us in this moment.
I've heard you say this before, and it's been really helpful for me that when there's times where I've been walking in that grace and it's just feeling like a flow and I'm growing and it's good, even if it's hard, it's good. And then sometimes you use the phrase, the grace ran out.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just a diagnostic reality to help us realize something that this isn't what God has for you anymore. Mm-hmm. Because if it was God giving you what you needed to do it, and then it's not there anymore, potentially there's a sense that something different should happen.
Yeah, what's he saying?
Yeah, but if your whole thing is, if we're just measuring this on human agency and know nothing about what God's doing and God's invitation, that's fine, but then you're going to miss the opportunity to say, okay, if God's grace is running out here, where is it going to? And can I follow the grace in my life in these new spaces? And that's going to lead to breakthrough. Might be a breakthrough in something different than you thought it was going to be, but it's breakthrough nevertheless.
That's good.
So then finally, if you're in breakthrough, let's just be real honest. Do not see that as coasting, smooth sailing.
Yeah, comfort zone.
Careful. Just be really careful about that, because it's kind of the, when you have the responsibility, there's opportunity there to, you know what I mean? You have to now hold and steward this breakthrough. And so the thing I always feel like the invitation in that from God is wisdom. Mm. And we see in scripture that God's wisdom is sometimes different than human wisdom. Mm-hmm. It sometimes seems to, what does it say, make the foolish, make the wise seem foolish. And so it's pursuit of a relationship with God where you're walking close enough that God's wisdom is becoming more and more your wisdom in that situation. Because there's going to be, we often, to switch metaphors, we often say that when there's breakthrough, there's going to then be growth, and growth leads to fruit. You got to harvest that stuff. You got to be able to bring that in. What are you going to do? You know, we love apples here in Minnesota.
Yes, we do.
Honeycrisp. We're apple connoisseur snobs.
Yeah.
But Honeycrisp apples. So say you have this beautiful, you've done a great job tending at this beautiful orchard, and you've grown beautiful apples, but you don't have the wisdom to figure out what it looks like to harvest all those apples.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Let them rot on the ground?
Well, and that's just...
Will there be another will there be another harvest again?
Yeah. And that means a breakthrough just became a frustration.
Golly.
So I just think there's an opportunity to steward well the breakthroughs. And here's why this is something important to pay attention to, because just like you said, a lot of people default to frustration. Typically, American culture, we focus so much on our weaknesses. That's part of American culture, and it's turning the tide a little bit. But when you give people a list of like the Strengths Finder tool, for instance, and it has their strengths 1 through 34, if you have the whole list, Americans typically, typical American culture will go to the bottom. That's not true in other cultures. In other cultures, they'll actually start, okay, well, what are the 5 things I'm good at? I better do that stuff. I think a healthy balance of those things is great. But if you're not paying attention to the breakthrough and stewarding it well because you're so concerned with your weaknesses,
that's a good point.
It's not going to help.
That's a good point. It's worth us taking a step back. And also, I think there is something that that breakthroughs have the potential to give you courage and encouragement and gratitude, which fuel the other areas of your life. You know? I think of when I can take stock of the breakthroughs that are happening and I'm able to engage them and give thanks, then when I face my failures, I'm like, the God of the breakthrough is the God who will resurrect me. Do you know what I mean? It's, the same power that raised Christ from the dead is living within me. The God of who fights for me is the one who has, he's gone ahead of me already. Yeah. He's gone ahead of me before. He will get me through this battle.
Right.
He has dealt with me even though I'm weak.
Right.
And even though I'm fragile. And I found it really helpful in terms of gathering up the seeds of what he's done and engaging with it, but gathering the spiritual principles I've learned in that time and saying, how can I move forward courageously in the areas where I'm yet to see breakthrough? Yeah. How can I take stock? Because you see it again in the arc of the Bible, God continually telling his people to remember what he's done. Yeah. Because we forget. Right. Write it down here, wear it around your neck, all that kind of stuff. Because we forget. And when we forget, we operate as though God is not there. Absolutely. And that he didn't do anything. And and that he hasn't thought things. It's like functional atheism. Yeah. Let's let that hang. I mean, you can say you believe something, but if you do something as intentional as this and God has no part in it, then that's what we call that. And it would be helpful, peeps, as you reflect on this, to take note of some of the breakthroughs, particularly if you've got some significant battles that are going to pop up on here. Particularly if you're likely to not only see your glasses half whatevered, but just less than. Yeah. It may be worth taking note of some of those things. I think that gratitude is a form of resistance against the enemy. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It is a way of saying, like, there might be some really hard things, but this is what God has done. Yeah. Celebration is as well. Yeah. And we now know that gratitude and celebration, psychologically speaking, lower anxiety, help people sleep better. I mean, God made us to be people of praise and thanksgiving. Like, that's just who we are. And so if we're so concerned about our really full frustration quadrant that we don't stop and have that gratitude. So wisdom and gratitude, I think that's a great way to respond to the breakthroughs in our life. That's good. So that is the SWOT. Woo! And I like thinking of you and Gina as my SWAT team. Yeah. Hardcore. Is there anything else from what we do together that's worth sharing? Let's just describe what those nights are like. Okay, so they always include some snacks. Yeah, sometimes if we manage it, we get a meal. Sometimes dinner. Yeah. Snacks always. Really great paper. A lot of time. Yeah. Don't say like, oh, we got an hour. No, we block out the evening. 3 hours or longer. And that's because we only do it a few times a year. Yeah, so we're able to rearrange schedule life because these are significant. And then moments. We get some great paper with some like colored pencils or markers or something to be able to color code. I don't know, we all like that a little bit. We just like that. It just makes us happy. Yeah. When else do you get to do coloring? Mm-hmm. I think that coloring book phase as that ended. Coloring. And then we draw the quadrant just like we just described. Mm-hmm. And then we're all extroverted-ish. Oh, Gina's a little bit introverted. So we're filling ours out and we're chatting about different things and eating our snacks. If we've been remotely organised beforehand, we might even have written it down before. It's true. I think that's happened to me once in 5 years. Yeah. I think that we might want to encourage people to have done some forethought. If you can. I mean, sometimes I've done forethought. I just haven't done forewriting. Yeah. And sometimes when I hear someone else like, oh yeah. Yeah, right. I had that battle too. Yeah, exactly. And then we just
take turns, each of us going around and sharing the things that feel like God's drawing our attention to.
Yeah, the big rocks from each one.
Yep. And because we've given each other permission to speak into it, but more than anything, the first thing everybody does is ask questions to help us go deeper. So each person's asking questions, and then the person either responds or says, I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Yeah.
Or oh yeah, that's not exactly what I meant. The question helps you realize, like, oh, you didn't totally get what I was saying, and then you come back.
It's refining it, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we just really push each other. We give some, speak into it to some extent. But I would say, and challenge each other, but I'd say we push each other towards, what is your word?
Yes.
What's the word that God has
Yeah,
for
what does
you?
it look like to hear the Lord on this one? And I think if we see trends, if we see a consistent thing pop up again, it's like, okay, this has popped up here for a few times now. And we'll celebrate if one of those that's been there for a few times actually ends up in a breakthrough point.
Totally.
And those are huge parts of it as well.
Yeah, and sometimes we are able to leave that night with the word. Other times it's like we're going to have to go back and prayer closet that. And that's,
prayer closet. It's
a
a verb.
We're going to prayer closet that.
We're going to prayer closet that.
We're going to prayer closet that thing. So, that's kind of what the night looks like. And so maybe some of you are listening and you're going, I want to do that, and we want to encourage you to find your people. However, we also have one other opportunity we wanted to offer to you, because when we were thinking about this, we were thinking, okay, if it was me, I think I'd appreciate the description these gals gave, but it'd be helpful if we could actually
interact a little bit about it. Excuse me, what was that?
Before you get a couple friends together and say, hey, I've got a new tool, maybe you want to interact. So we're going to make a spot for 15 people to do what we're calling an interactive online training.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be 15 people and us on a video call. And it's going to be a training on how to do this with other people, how to do this for your own self, and interactive. So you can ask questions. We'll encourage you to bring some forethought to it.
Yes, please don't be like us on that one.
Yeah. It'll be an hour-long interactive thing, and we're going to do it on Sunday. I wrote this down. Sunday, January 27th at 7 p.m. Central. Sunday, January 27th, 7 p.m. Central. So if you would like to join us, you can go to leadstoriesmedia.com/resources.
And you'll find all the details there.
Yep, leadstoriesmedia.com/resources. We'd love for you to sign up. I think it's just $44 for the... That's not expensive coaching, people, just in case. Just in case you know, that's. I mean, we really want to do it for people in a way that makes sense for us to offer it.
Yeah.
But we know that a lot of people tend to underinvest in themselves.
Well, and also we recognise it's the start of the year.
Yeah.
Probably it's been a little bit at Christmas. So this is our Christmas acknowledgement.
Right. Yeah. So this is kind of our introductory affordability price. So hopefully that means that 15 of you can make it. But in order to do this the way we want to do it, it can't be more than that.
No, that's not for this. We want to use this time to really dig deep. We want those of us who are interested and who are able to get on that online training to come away feeling like, okay,
I got this tool.
I got this now. I know how to use this thing.
Yeah, but otherwise, if you are thinking about doing this, go to the show notes. We've got a SWOT analysis you can download and a little description, and then you can head over to YouTube and watch us explaining this if you want.
Hey, YouTube.
But we would love to hear from you if you give this tool a try. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
We would love to see your pictures if you want to take. We always take SWOT selfies.
We do.
It's a little bit special, but it's fun.
But we
We take pictures of our snacks.
They're good though.
Yep.
I mean, they're special occasion snacks.
Selfies with each other. And I have never posted what's on my SWOT. I'm just saying.
No, there are beautiful angles to show the paper and we fuzz it out a little bit.
But if you do, then tag us. Tag us!
Yeah, it'd be great to see.
Yeah.
Get intentional with your leadership this year. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. So we're going to do tools of the trade for just a little bit here.
Yeah.
And then our goal, our hope, is to offer tools throughout the year. Yeah. As a way of, once again, turning up the notch on the intentionality of our leadership here with Lead Stories. And I'm really excited about that.
I am, and I'm excited about doing it through the year. One, because to come up with a new tool every week doesn't give any of us any time to process them and work out how to use them. So we want to intersperse them throughout the year so that you can, you might want to be working on this for a good 2-3 weeks. Well, good for you. Yeah. We want to feel like you want to have conversations with people and say, is this a good tool to pick up and use for my life right now? Yeah. Those things are important. So we don't want to just kind of bombard us with one set of things and say, okay, you've been given 16 tools. have at it and stuff. We want to take time, but that means we will go dip in and out of this particular series, and then we'll be bringing in other tools, other interviews, other content that will help you as you move forward in your leadership.
Tools of the trade is going to be like a reoccurring.
Yeah.
But I think next week we're going to bring to you another one of our core tools.
Yeah.
So get ready for that.
Just to kind of launch us into the year. January, everybody's a bit more motivated with tools. So,
So I think it'll be
good times.
And we'll see the intersection with it and with SWOT. Yay! Season 6 has been inaugurated. It's happening. Sorry,
I don't know what happened to your voice then. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm gonna humbly ask if you never do that again.
People, it's happening. Okay, now I'm done. Never again. Okay. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.